only way a small business to grow is to have right systems in place, which I think is the tech part of it, mapped on top of great processes. That's the only way to grow. Whether you're a one-person shop, one guy in a garage, or 10 girls in an apartment, whatever it may be. And to my point, which is a nod, right, to thrive in some way, there's a few things that technology can help you to do. One, segment customers. I think two, follow up. I think three, ask questions. Did we delight you? Was this good? Give feedback, survey, all that kind of stuff. You see, I'm talking about the marketing or the customer experience functions, but letting technology help you do it better.
The following is brought to you by Thryv, the end-to-end client experience platform that helps you get the job, manage the job, and get credit.
Hello, this is Gordon Henry at Winning on Main Street, the podcast bringing you actionable insights for small business owners. And this week you get to meet Ramon Ray. Ramon is an entrepreneur, best-selling author, keynote speaker, event MC, host of the Smart Hustle podcast. You can find him at ramonray.com and smarthustle.com. Ramon started 4 companies, sold 2 of them, an event company and a business publishing company. So a lot to tell us. Welcome, Ramon.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Gordon. It's good to be here, man. Always good to talk small business with another dude or gal, in this case, another dude who loves small business. So thanks for having me, and I can't wait to learn from you, and hopefully I'll be able to impart some insights to the amazing community that we're talking to today.
So super excited to have you. So just tell us kind of your journey into entrepreneurship. How did you get started as an entrepreneur?
Sure. The very short of the journey is I was working full-time at the United Nations, which most people know, global nonprofit trying to do its best to save the world. So I was there, had a job, regular job, great salary and income. While there, for some reason, Gordon, how entrepreneurship gets into any of us, I don't know. But the data points which led me to this journey I am today was one, at the time there was a travel agent that was working in one of the offices I was managing. Travel agent was like, hey, I'll give you some money if you can help me do some networking and installing software. This would have been 20 years ago or so. The age of PCs, not cloud computing, wasn't that big of a thing. So I got paid to help him with his office technology. And that was, I guess, kind of maybe a light bulb went on. I like this. I like serving people and not just making the money. So I think that was one data point, which is my journey to starting 3 other companies besides the first one, a technology consulting company. Second, I think Ramon as a speaker, as you know as well, I fly around the world speaking to companies all over the place. And that was a friend of mine said, Ramon, SCORE, probably a third of your audience will know SCORE, the free government consulting service,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then if anybody doesn't know, definitely check out score.org, give them huge props helping small businesses. And she said, Ramon, can you speak? I can't go that day. And so that was just to get a taste for speaking in public. I'm sure I had done a bit of it before, but the recurring Ramon as a speaker, as an entertainer. So that's 2. And I think that's how it started really from there. And I guess the third story I'll share is that I recall at the time, Black Enterprise magazine, which is still in print today, and Inc. magazine, still in print today, around similar periods of time. Hey, Ramon, can you come and write for us? We'll pay you $1 per word. And I'm like, that sucks. $1 per word? Who would do that? And as you probably know, this is leading because you're in this world, Gordon. They're like, oh, can you write 2,000 words? I'm like, whoa, whoa. I didn't know people got paid to write. Yeah. So that's helpful, Gordon. I was in the content world, I discovered, as it were, the power of the internet and things like that. But I think as far as the monetization and this realizing, oh, I have something Ramon has, people will pay for it. Those 3 things come to mind. Ramon is the writer, Ramon is the speaker, Ramon is the entrepreneur, I think came together 20 odd years ago to where I am today, having started 4 companies, sold 2 companies, and an author, writer, speaker.
Yeah, great. So speaking of the United Nations, I read on one of your websites or blogs that you got fired from the United Nations, but you say you learned and moved forward, which I think is always a good thing. We all have disappointments, and hopefully we learn to do that. What was your learning out of that, and how did you move forward?
Yeah, I think a few things. And one, of course, there's the learning from the UN, which it just happened to be a dysfunctional office. A lot of things were going on there. But I think that I just learned I learned from a boss there, 2 different bosses, I think that's where I matured a bit, put it that way, because that was my first job really young. So that learning there. But I think learning from being fired there, I think is that, especially people say, tell your younger self. I don't know if I knew it in the moment, but I think that I'm me, Gordon, and you're not for everybody, Gordon, right? I'm not for everybody, people listening. So
my wife tells me that all the time.
She's like, you're stuck with me, baby. You're just for me. But I guess what I'm trying to say in that, Gordon, is that, so I'm a certain way I am, a little bit loud and irreverent, and I like to be fun and all that. That's not for everybody. And I think that for the UN experience, notwithstanding getting fired for entrepreneurship, because their UN had some rules and I had permission, but they changed the rules. So I had to make a decision and I got fired. But the point being is that the UN's a very, I think the word is staid, meaning proper, bit formal, decorum, which I fully respect. I'm like, yo, what's up? Welcome delegates to the UN. So metaphorically, I think that's where I learned I'm me. And I think the aspect of moving on is that thank God that we had some cash set aside. I had my first client at the time while I was being fired. So that carried us over for a few months. But I think really just that sometimes the greatest things that get in the way are an opportunity for us.
Yeah, it's great. You've learned a lot and shared a lot about running a small business, and I know it's a gigantic question, but I've seen you answer this. What do you think are the keys to running a small business? And in particular, one thing I know you focused on, maybe I'll narrow in.
Sure.
Know your numbers. You always say know your numbers. What does that mean, and why is it important?
Sure. 3 to 4 keys, I think, right at the top. There's many more, of course, but I think if I would say one, the mindset of business, being a leader, and I'll throw in their purpose, values, mission, being a leader, all those things. Not fair to throw them all, but that's one bucket. I think point 2, definitely the marketing side, which I know we'll probably get into in a bit here. But the marketing side, getting customers, keeping customers, that's point 2. 3 is the technology side of business, having the technology stack, knowing how to do it. And 4th, as you said, is definitely the numbers. And I'm not an expert in numbers, but I've been on a journey myself to know my numbers better. Shout out to Mike Michalowicz, Profit First. I've learned a lot from that. And just understanding, get money in, money goes out, and all those things. I'm sure we could go on, but that aspect of know your numbers. And point 1, I just want to reiterate part of the mindset, being a good leader. That's what I wanted to add. Leader, mindset, purpose, value, missions, all that's really important to have a successful company.
So where would you say you learned about business? Because, you had a certain journey. You just told us a little bit about how you left the United Nations, and so many small businesses, clients of Thryv's included, are great at what they do. They're great at, remodeling a kitchen, or they're great at fixing a boat, or what have you. But they are not great business people, or they at least have never been trained to be business people. Where did you learn about business? And do you have to be trained, or is it something you pick up?
Yeah. So yes and yes, meaning you have to be trained, but trained while you're picking it up. Most of us, because do you have to go to school and get an MBA? Do you have to go to, small business 101 for 6 months? Nah. But I think that a few things that you can learn, and I'll give credit to Marie Forleo. Some people may be her fans. Her book, Everything is Figure Outable, I believe it is, something like that. So I think that's probably the biggest way most of us learn, just the search engine, looking at it. That's how I learned. And at the time, podcasting wasn't so big back then and things, but just really learning from some of the magazines I just mentioned, reading books. So I think that's probably the number one way. And there's so many resources out there. I've mentioned SCORE. SCORE's been around for years. You go there, your local library, things like that, asking questions of others. But I think the main thing, Gordon, is the best way to learn is have a desire that you don't know. And those listening, there is an art to business. The 4 things we said: financing in some way, technology in some way, figuring out all the forms of marketing there are in this mindset. And I think if you're open to just picking up a little bit at a time, meet people like Gordon, right? Hearing good podcasts, you're not going to know everything. You're going to make mistakes, but you pick stuff up and you become hopefully a half decent business owner, but know that you don't know it, and always learn and ask questions of people.
I wanted to ask you quickly about the 4 companies we don't have time to go into all 4 of them,
Sure.
But 2 of them were successful enough to be sold.
Sure.
What was the success that you had with those 2 companies, and how did you go about selling them?
Sure, and I can highlight them in seconds. Technology consulting company, event company, blog, and the current company, Smart Hustle. So those are the 4 companies that I started. So I sold smallbiztechnology.com, which still has a domain, still active today. And I think that's part of value. Another blogger who had a little bigger empire than mine, he's like, I'll wire you some money for it. Done. That was as simple as that. No big Business Week, Forbes coverage of it. And then the other one is my event business called the Small Business Summit. Another blogging event company was like, Ramon, we see what you're doing. We'll buy it. So they bought it from me. So those are the 2 things that would happen. And I think probably in those listening to this podcast, Gordon, that probably happens to some people who are listening to us. They're never going to get covered. It's not a multi-billion-dollar thingamajiggy, but they're earning $2 million a year in their business. They sold it for 5 or 6. Good for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about the marketing and technology. You referenced that before. I know you're very interested in social media marketing. I saw some funny interview where you said you were posting the Uber driver of the day tip or driver tip of
That's
the
right.
day. How should small business owners think about social media? They're busy, they're on a roof, they're under a sink, they don't have a lot of time to do this stuff. How should they think about social media?
Yeah, a few things come to mind for me, and I'll synthesize this. And if you want to talk about it for 10 more hours, we can. The Gordon Plus show, premium show. But a few things I would say. One, I think every business owner should think like a publisher. And I know it's a lot because I just said have a good mindset. Think, know your numbers. But as far as the marketing stack, think like a publisher. Share content. Two, in my book, Celebrity CEO, I talk about this. Build a fan base, build a community. I think that's the second part. Nurture those people then to buy. Social media is simply the tool or the platform, the technology that lets you do that. So to your point of what you said about me being interviewing Uber drivers, now that's me, everybody can't do it. But as you know, I'm kind of a personality. I sell myself and others may be doing that. So me interviewing the Uber driver about their journey or their business is within sync to what I do, if that was helpful. I can go on, but let me know if that's helpful.
Yeah, no, that's great. And on the technology side, that's what our show has tended to focus on, is the need for small businesses to adopt technology so that they can automate things, not always rely on human hands to do things, and also create a better sort of system so that they're not, so that they can replicate, so they can grow and do things over and over the same way. What are your views on technology as used by small businesses today?
Gordon, the only way a small business to grow is to have the right systems in place, which I think is the tech part of it, mapped on top of great processes. That's the only way to grow. Whether you're a one-person shop, one guy in a garage, or 10 girls in an apartment, whatever it may be. And to my point, which is a nod, right, to thrive in some way, is that my point is a few things that technology can help you to do. One, segment customers. Everybody's not the same. I bought $10,000 worth of sushi. Gordon bought $1 worth of sushi. Well, pay more attention to me behind the scenes. Don't tell Gordon that. That's one. Segment customers. I think two, follow up. Ramon just came to the website, browsing around, filled this out, filled that out, didn't all the way. Follow up with me. And technology helps you scale that across not one customer, but thousands. That's two. Follow up is important. I think three, ask questions. Did we delight you? Was this good? Give feedback, survey, all that kind of stuff that I'm sure you've talked about in other episodes. And that enables you to then say, great, can you refer others? Or sorry, Mr. Henry, sorry we screwed up. You never got the order. We're so sorry. You can, before he gives you a bad review, and then he'll give you a good review. So I'll pause there, but those are some ways that you see I'm talking about the marketing or the customer experience functions, but letting technology help you do it better.
Yeah. This move to the cloud that we talk about a lot, and a lot of small business owners are like, I'm not techie. I don't know what the cloud is. I probably can't figure it out. It sounds expensive. And one of the things we've tried to impress upon them is, first of all, you say, do you use Facebook, or do you text your grandkids or, family members, or do you use LinkedIn or any of these popular tools? The answer is usually yes, right? Even do you use Gmail? Well, those are all in the cloud, right? So let's get over that idea of using this, fancy technology. When you're talking about costs, one of the reasons Thryv exists is we've brought what used to be thousands a month or tens of thousands a month of dollars that used to be spent on big systems by big companies, and brought basically that technology down to the small business level where they're spending hundreds of dollars a month. And probably you can, as you said, automate your processes and make your clients happier. You also probably can use less staff because you don't need as many hands when the technology is doing the work for you. So it sort of pays for itself that way. But one of the things that we've talked about with Thryv is it really starts with a database, just knowing who are your customers, like you said, and then profiling them, obviously name, address, telephone number, what they buy, how often do they buy, how quickly did they pay you, having all that information. Then we go a step further with our tool, which is all the communication back and forth. It's all stored in one place where you can see all the emails, all the texts. So it's a very effective way, especially if you have staff. Oh, Susie's not in today. What was her communication with Ramon? Oh, I can see it right here. So
exactly,
that's what we're talking about is creating when you talk about a system or a process. Okay,
and those
great.
Those two sides are right, Gordon. Just to underline it, not that I need to, but I just want to affirm what you're saying. The two sides. You have the technology which helps you scale, as I said, And then you've added, and you're right. It's when you have team. There's nothing worse than, so me and Gordon work at the same company. Gordon sometimes might go off the reservation, pull me back in. But me and Gordon work at the same company. The customer calls, as Gordon already said, and he's like, nah, I didn't even know you were a customer. That's terrible. I've been a customer for 7 years. But now Gordon can be just as smart and say, by the way, how are your kids? Because he's seeing it in some database in some way, for sure.
Exactly. Story I always love to tell is I remember when I was a kid and I used to get this postcard in the mail from Baskin and Robbins, 31 flavors. You're probably too young to even remember it.
I know what it is. Come on now.
And they would send you a postcard on your birthday, and my mother would take me over to 31 flavors. I could pick my free ice cream cone, and it was like the greatest day of the year. And that kind of little touch you can automate with your CRM system. So whether it's a birthday wish, whether it's a Happy New Year wish or anniversary, any data you can collect can be turned into that little touch that your customer will appreciate at basically no cost, an email, text. So it's all good stuff. So one of the things you talk about in the marketing area is publicity. And I know you have this thing about free publicity. Right. So I'm an electrician, I'm a roofer. How do I get free publicity? Why would anybody care about what I have to say?
Sure. 2 ways to get publicity. One is to be the expert commentator on the news of the day. There's only one Captain Sully, the guy who landed the plane of the Hudson River. Only one. And I'm often the commentator because I don't have anything special happening to me. Or you're the subject of the news. You grew 4 arms and saved the world, something like that. Going back to your practical example, I'm an electrician and I want to get some news. A few quick things I'll start off with. I think 1, don't try to get on Oprah, proverbially, or CNN, Fox News today. You could, but that's 1. 2, start small. There's a number of local podcasts, local newspapers, local radios, let's say some suburb out of Austin, some suburb out of Seattle. Notice not Austin or Seattle, the suburb outside that's covered in a local hockey game. Start there. 3, the relationships you're having with the press. Let's say a Gordon type person, right? Local blogger, not, national TV as it were. You can reach Gordon on LinkedIn, hint, hint, hello. So that's the kind of way. And then I think 4, the biggest thing is when you pitch, why should I care about it? Pitching and saying, for those listening, I'm holding up a red cup, hey, we have a new red cup. But more so, let's say again for the plumber, electrician, I think you said, so let's use electrician example. He may say, listen, summertime's coming. More and more kids are in pools, bringing in plugged in radios, for example. You could put a stat with that, a study with that, and you get where I'm going. I can talk longer, but that's the idea of where you're bringing a what do you call it? an item, the prop. A prop. You have news of the day, kids and safety. You're the expert. And just I'll riff for 2 more seconds here. Hey, I've seen 2 kids die every summer in our town. If they only would do X, Y, Z, let me show you. Here's how to use your radio near the pool safely. Want me to bring it to the studio? So I've shared a lot there, but I hope that's helpful. Is that every small business owner using some of the things I just said, you can rewind and listen to it in slow motion. That's some ways to get press. And out of every 10 pitches, 10 are not going to say yes. By the way, if they do, please call me and Gordon and we'll have a deal with you. But out of every 10, 3, 4, 5 may get back to you and then follow up. So I'll pause there, but follow up as well.
Yeah, no, this is great stuff. Hey, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to be back in 30 seconds, I think, with Ramon Ray.
This episode of Winning on Main Street is brought to you by Thryv, the end-to-end client experience platform that includes everything small business owners need to meet their customers' expectations. Thryv's award-winning and fully mobile interface delivers technology previously reserved for big business to the fingertips of small business owners nationwide. Thryv's built specifically for small business, but there's nothing small about what it can do. Thryv handles your entire customer experience, helping business owners reach more customers, stay organized, get paid faster, and generate online reviews, all from a single device or screen. To learn more about Thryv, visit winningonmainstreet.com and click on Get a Demo. When it comes to software to run your business, there's no comparison. Check out Thryv today.
So we're back with Ramon Ray. Ramon, it was a fantastic conversation. I want to ask you, I know you go out and speak to a lot of schools and youth audiences. That's one of the things you do, which I think is fantastic. What's your sense about kids coming up? Are they interested in, small business and entrepreneurship, or have we lost that sort of spark that we used to see?
Yeah, I want to be careful what I say because I don't want all the young people to start flaming me or you. But I think a few things I'll say. I think one, in large part, thanks to Shark Tank. Metaphorically, even my wife, who's not an entrepreneur at all, but I think there's a segment of people, 9 million, I think, watch that show. As I understand the numbers, public numbers, a week. That's a lot of people. A lot of them are geeks, small biz people like you and I. We already know this stuff. But new people that are watching it for the entertainment value, but then people like, hey, I can do this. That's one. I have to thank Shark Tank. One. I think two, a lot of young people, I think, are seeing that, hey, listen, I want to do my own thing. Our fathers wanted to work for big company X, get the pension, retire, have a business for life. I know my father was in that generation, not sure about yours, but I assume mine was in that generation. But now it's not like that. We're seeing more and more, there's less loyalty. 5 years, 7 years working for a company, you'll probably be fired or moved on. So I think those two things. So I think, yes, I think more and more young people are aware of that. And I think third, Gordon, a lot of the tools are cheap to free. And again, I want to put the asterisk. I'm not one of these people that think small business owners should be looking for free tools. Free tools are great, but don't just build your business. Oh, it's $50 a month. It's too much. You have to invest in your business to get from your business. Let me get back on track. Well, I forgot where I was at, but I'm sure you can pick up from where I left off. I was on a roll there. I distracted myself, Gordon.
That's an interesting point about the free tools. And I will just mention here, our experience with Thryv is that so many small businesses do start out with a free email, a free CRM, a free text tool, a free payment tool, something like that. And suddenly they have 5, 6, 7 tools. None of them speak to each other. The data has to be re-entered multiple times. And it really leads to sort of more confusion. And so at a certain point, they say, how do I get over this? And that is a lot of the reason why we actually built Thryv was to create a single place where you could do most of your business. And for those other tools that people really want to use, we can integrate with them. So, many small businesses use QuickBooks. We integrate with QuickBooks. If they love Constant Contact because they've been using it for 20 years, we integrate with Constant Contact. So all of those. So that idea of having a kind of an end-to-end solution is something we promote, that small businesses may not realize day one, but they do sort of come around to. So it's an excellent point about the free tools. Yes. You talk a lot about personal branding. You have a gigantic personal brand. Congrats. You make a point that it's important, particularly the leader of the company. Talk about this from a small business perspective. What is a personal brand, and why should that matter to a local business person?
Sure. Personal branding, I think, is so important. And I want to put a caveat to shoot myself in the foot, metaphorically. You don't have to have a personal brand. Going back to the example you gave, you're a small local service provider and you have a good book of clients and you're doing okay. It's just you in a truck. This may not be for you. You may want to do some local flyers. So I want to say that everybody can't do everything. However, for those of you who are interested in building a fan base, building a community, or as I say again, being the celebrity CEO in your industry, this will help 3 things happen. A, you don't have to price discount or don't have to do it so much. 2, you don't have to be afraid of customers running to your competition. 3, you have an inbound volume of leads or interest. Not everybody's going to buy, but isn't that great to wake up and people are coming to you? So this is the advantage of having a strong personal brand. And part of the strong personal brand, some of the tools you can consider doing, a few key things. A, maybe you have events online or offline regularly in your local neighborhood, just inviting the kids, inviting the parents, inviting your potential customers. That's 1. 2, maybe you're considering having your own book, a book or a guide or something that people can download or see from your website, or that you're passing out at the local Chamber of Commerce meetings. Books are important. 3, an overwhelming amount of good social media, which part of that is video as well. And again, I'm sure Gordon has talked and we'll talk a whole longer thing on social media, but that's point 3. I think point 4, good images and things. I know many people, you're kind of in the grind day to day. You have that grainy cell phone shot. Take a minute. You pass by a nice flower bed and you got the dirty bucket of tools. That's a cool photo. You take that photo with and you get what I'm saying, Gordon, the bucket of something or other in the nice little pretty setting. Share that on Instagram, and you do that regularly. That's how you start to build a following of people. So I'll pause there, but I think the aspect of building a personal brand is to ask for a smile before you ask for a sale, just to get people, as my friend John Jant says, and you guys may know him as well, know, like, and trust you. Start there, build a fan base, then nurture them to a sale.
Yeah, no, I love that. One of the things we also like to talk about is using pictures or video to show the work you do. I know, for me as a guy with a house who, things break,
Yeah.
I am always interested in seeing, hey, how do I fix my plumbing? How do I fix, something that breaks, a tool? How do the shingles get put on the house? People want to know that stuff.
Yes.
And so if you can put some of that information on your site, and of course it shows how well you do too. I think it is a way of building a brand, because you're teaching people in a kind of easy, accessible way, which people tend to like.
And Gordon, can I just one more thing? People who may be saying the aspect of, what if people don't hire me? Because that's another thing I often hear. Right after what you just said, people say, oh, if I teach people how to put their own shingles on, they're not going to hire me.
Yeah.
Here's the dirty secret.
Yeah.
The world's so big, there are people like Gordon and people like me. Now, take a look at me and Gordon. We look very similar except for our glasses. Both of us are going to the video. 20%, I'm making the stats up, Gordon. 20%, 10% of the people are going to appreciate your video and do it themselves. Great. You've helped another human. The other 80% will look at the video, will probably stop by the local store and buy the nails. Then we're going to be like, you know what? Let me call Jeremy and have him help me. So that's often how this works. Build the tribe, build the community, but more people than not, they're going to hire you to do it, or somehow they're not going to really, they're doing it just because they want to know. We're curious. But few people are going to say, yeah, I'm going to change my own brake discs or whatever you call things on cars to stop the car. Few people.
Right. Yeah. And people should realize that all that stuff is available on YouTube these days anyway. It's just maybe not by people as good as you are. There's some guy somewhere who's made a video of how I change brake discs or something. I mean, that's all available. So you might as well do it and get the reputation of being the expert. Right?
That's right.
Yeah. You had a saying I liked. You said, date your leads and marry your customers. Date your leads and marry your customers. What does that mean?
Yeah. Date your leads, marry your customers simply means this. Instead of trying to get a customer to buy from you, Gordon, buy. He doesn't know me, doesn't like me, doesn't trust me, never heard of me. First, let me spend some time metaphorically dating him, nurturing him, getting to know him, making him laugh, being him friendly, having him attend my webinar, having him attend my local events, receiving my postcard. Then I can nurture him until he buys from me. Then he'll be a customer for life and we're married. That's what that means.
Yeah, that's a great example. Great example. Yeah, too many companies just expect you to, here's the pitch, buy. If you don't buy immediately, I never hear from you again, right? Because we're all impatient, want it to happen so soon. That's great. Are you working on starting another company today?
I don't know if I can tell you, Gordon. I don't know. I have a lot of ideas in my head. And as Seth Godin says, I'm probably more project focused than anything else. I love youth mentorship and I want to do something there. So there's a lot of companies inside me. But right now, so I don't know. There probably will be at least one or two more companies. And if not companies, projects that I probably will do in partnerships with others.
Interesting. Yeah. I wanted to get a little bit more about you, Ramon, personally. I noticed, at least it's published, you've been married 25 years, you have 2 children, family seems important to you. We see so many families today coming apart. It's a real issue today in America. What do you credit for yourself in being able to keep such a strong family together?
Yeah, I think a few things. And again, I'm blessed that happened to me. I know many, probably by the person next door, half of America, a third are broken families or raised in broken families. But yeah, since you asked, I think for me, I've been blessed to have a family, intact family and 2 adult children. My son, in fact, got married recently. So I think a few things. One, my faith is very, very strong. I believe in God and I'm a Christian. So I'd like to contribute that to that. If you're not, whoever's listening, no problem. That's my journey, for me. But I think faith is something important. So more than a transaction, that's one. 2, I have to credit my parents. I think they were imperfect people, but as all of our parents probably are, but good parents. I had a good example. I credit my wife with that. I thank God for her that she's been able to just be a great partner in this experience. So I think those are a few things. And I think we can't forget the community around us, Gordon. You and I are new friends, but I think when you go through life, no matter how hard you've had it growing up, as an adult, we have a mature mind, can make decisions. At some point, the decision's in your hand. And you have to learn to say, whatever happened here, I have to let go. I happen to have had a good childhood, but for those who've grown up kind of with a yucky life, you kind of have to make decisions and make a difference. So those are the things I credit. My faith for sure. And I'm blessed that I've been around some good examples.
You grew up in the Midwest, as I understand it, and then your family moved to Brooklyn. What do you think back of that you liked about the Midwest in particular, and what'd you like about Brooklyn in particular?
Yeah, the Midwest is one of those, you get outside, hey Mary, how are you? How are the kids? How's the flower? Doing okay? You know what? I got some extra milk for you. Metaphorically, that's kind of that flyover country USA, right? That friendly, everybody smiles. That's what I miss most about it. I think what I like about the grit of New York City and things like that is the hustle. I like fast-paced, a bagel shop on every corner, pizza shop on the go with a bottle of soda. I drink more water now. You fold that greasy pizza up, Gordon. The grease drips down as you're walking. That's kind of New York City, and let's admit, it's a very diverse environment. Forget white and black. I'm talking about Indian, Chinese, Pakistani, Spanish, Ecuador, Colombia, as you know, it's a really potpourri. I think potpourri means that. My English is bad sometimes, Gordon. So a potpourri dish of all kinds of people. I like that. It's really nice.
That's great. That's great. Well, you described both of those very well, and I can taste the pizza right now. I noticed there was something where it said you've interviewed President Obama on the president's first live Google Hangout, and you were part of the U.S. delegation to India led by Ivanka Trump for the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. So very bipartisan, very bipartisan. Do you feel that the government is doing enough to support small business? Is there anything you would recommend that we see differently?
Yeah, I think there's two things I would say to that. And I think that interesting about the question, Gordon, is that the country is so big. Economics are so big. I think anything anybody does on that level, not everything's going to be bad or good. But I think that I will credit the government. I think, notwithstanding COVID, I think SCORE, I've said their name several times, and there's private companies like yours, of course, doing great things, that not take away at all. But I think there's that small business today who's listening to us, no clue what they're doing. Their first line of business, don't even know how to open a bank account. SCORE helps with that. So I think that's one thing I credit in the SBA and SBDCs, ASBDCs in general. I think the government's doing a great job with that respect, because on the other hand, Gordon, there's a very limited amount of things the government can do for any of us. I think for me, I think its job is to more say, stay out of the way. We want some things regulated, right? I want the airplanes. That's a big enough industry that you need government, our driver's license. But beyond that, charting my destiny, it's more so, let me I'll hold my red cup again. Let me buy 50 cups for 2 cents. See if I can stand on the corner and sell them for $1 each.
Right.
If that grows and grows, let me then hire my buddy Gordon. Say, Gordon, I can give you $1 at the end of the day, man. Can you help me carry these? He'll do it. And now we have 100 people in our company. And isn't that, Gordon, what entrepreneurship is about? So regarding the government, yes, I think there's more can be done. All kind of issues with PPP. Wasn't handled well, wasn't handled not. Are you this, are you that? Sure. But I guess I'm more of a half cup, half full, the positivity of it. And I see so many small businesses, though, that are thriving. And most that fail, Gordon, it's not the government's fault at all. It's just the marketplace. They hustled the wrong way. It didn't work. But there's enough stories of people who've succeeded.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, I think the thing I love about small business and entrepreneurs is that they make things happen. There are so many people who just sit around and complain or wish or hope or think, but small business people tend to be action oriented and make things happen. And there's really a lot to be admired in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just closing out, we only have a couple of minutes left.
Sure.
This has been great. I saw a slide in one of your presentations at a school. You were talking to kids and you said, dress well, speak well, listen well. And I love that. It sort of seems to be the opposite of what's happening today. People don't dress particularly well. They don't necessarily speak very well. They tend to use a lot of slang. And God, listening well. It seems everybody just wants to talk. Nobody wants to listen anymore. So, interesting that that's your message. How do the kids receive that message?
From what I could tell, I didn't get any eggs thrown on me. Most received it well. And I think, Gordon, most don't know. And I'll give an example. I know we have a few minutes left. My son got a job. This was many years ago, a young boy, young man, that's my job to teach him. He had gotten a job But the little the coffee shop he was working at said, bring us your resume, because we didn't have it. So clearly it wasn't totally in, but they were like, yeah, you're hired, but we have some formalities. He had his hat on, baseball hat, a dingy t-shirt, some old shorts and flip-flops, because it was right down the block. I said, stop. You can make that decision if you want, but you should show up your best. I already got it. So that's the example. If that's helpful, Gordon, and I'm glad we can end on that, I think, is that our youth need to be learning from us. Your journey is going to be different than mine. Mine's different from you. I'm not throwing stones at anybody. I'm just sharing what's worked for me. And you're right on those three things. Showing up well, brushing my teeth a bit. It sounds silly, but how we show up is important. Many people may not see us, Gordon. They'll make assumptions just from us, how we a distance, for good or for bad. So I'll pause there. I know there's short time, but those are a few things, yes. And I love helping youth and young people for sure. And I think it's our obligation to do that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that really applies to small business, and it applies right back to your personal brand thing. If a person comes to your house, so many people during COVID were getting things fixed at their house. Everybody seemed to use this year to remodel or fix up or update or paint or build. If the small business person shows up at your house, dingy t-shirt, dirty shoes, unkempt, you're going to have one impression. If they show up in a neatly pressed uniform, you're going to have a different impression. When you look at, by the way, most of the successful franchises, they mandate that you wear their uniform and that you show up looking clean. So maybe the small business people should take a page out of that book and say, well, if it was good enough for that guy who's got 1,000 franchise units, maybe I should be thinking about doing that as well.
That's right. Yeah. That's right, for sure.
Well, Ramon, this has been absolutely fantastic. I love your advice, your insights, all the teaching and training you've done, particularly with the youth of this country. And your energy is unbelievable, infectious. So thanks for keeping us all jazzed up here. Great having you on the show, and best of luck to you.
Gordon, thank you so much. You're an amazing, amazing interviewer. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you very much. You're really kind. And if you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe and tell a friend or colleague to subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. Until next time, make it a great week.